Good afternoon, this is Josh here at Mass Gunworks. So I had an opportunity to work on a really cool 22. I'm going to call this a historical firearm because it's really old. It's an antique, and I therefore consider it to be a historical firearm. I'm going to back the camera up a little bit so I can show you. This is a Savage model 1903. I got a book, metal buck plate stamped Savage emblem. I got a book recently, talks about these old 22s, really good book. And there was also a 1909, I guess, but the main difference was the 1909s had a round barrel and the 03s had a octagon barrel. And this one is an octagon. Good friend of mine from when I used to work at the local hospital, fellow paramedic, came to me, and one of his family members unfortunately had a house fire, and he was able to retrieve this and a few other guns and wanted to see about getting it refinished. Initially, he wanted to see about getting it reblued. After some conversation about pricing, we decided to just do Cerakote, mainly because there's a lot of pitting on this barrel, and although it could be filed out and made to look nice again, with the amount of time and labor it would take, it was just financially restrictive for him. So we did Cerakote. This is a color called Midnight Blue. And then I also mixed about 10% gloss black into it, kind of made a bit of a custom color. The sights, there's certain things that I don't Cerakote. Pins, small screws, internal parts, sear faces, absolutely not. Dovetail sights, I typically don't Cerakote, just because it'll cause too much interference with the fitment, and I'll probably have to file the Cerakote off. So I do this thing called oil blackening. I heat the part up until it starts going through its color spectrum, and typically I'll get it to around a good shade of purple or dark blue, and I'll quench it in some used motor oil, and it just adds a nice almost color case hardened look to it. I don't know if you can see good enough in the light there, but that one's got more of the deep blue, and then this one's got a little bit of purple right there in the middle where the heat didn't go all the way up, because that's where my pliers are gripping. Yeah, that's typically what I do with pieces like that. So this is just a cool gun. So the stock had some charring. You can still see a little bit of it there. I didn't want to really get crazy with sanding way down deep into the wood. I took a Scotch-Brite pad, and I was able to get most of the charring off and preserve most of the wood. Kept it looking antique-ish. And then I've got this stuff called Danish oil that I use to rub into it. It's going to help give it some weather protection, and as Danish oil dries, it tends to make the wood harder, so it does a really good job of protecting the wood. Took the butt plate, and it was kind of pitted and nasty, so I hit it with my polishing wheel for a little bit, and then took fine Scotch-Brite and Scotch-Brited it, put some black dye in the insignia there, and Scotch-Brited over that so it'd make it pop just a little bit. So this is a neat weapon. Way it operates, it's a slide operated, kind of like a Mossberg or a Remington shotgun. There's a little lever here. Take the magazine out. This is a magazine fed 22 from a Detachable 10 round box magazine. And if my history is correct, this is one of the first detachable box magazine 22s, okay? Up to that point, anything that had a magazine that was a 22 was typically a tube magazine that went underneath the barrel. So this is one of the first ones that had a detachable magazine. Slide loads, and then there's a little lever right here. Once you get it loaded, this lever locks the slide forward, so you're not able to accidentally pop it out of battery. If you want to release the slide, you either got to fire the hammer or push this lever up, and then it'll come back, okay? It's secured by a guide rod that is fitted into a dovetail, okay? And my experience with this, there's a screw here that you can take out, and that releases the guide rod. And I believe you can take the slide out of the rifle without having to pop this dovetail out. Don't hold me to that. But if you do have to pop the dovetail out, I believe this one goes, if you got the gun upside down, it's going to go that direction to go out, which if you're looking down the axis of the weapon with it upside down, you're going to go from the left side driving out to the right side, and then to put it back in, you're going to drive from the right side in toward the left side. But it's just a simple operation of taking a brass punch and just giving it a couple love taps. Take this down to field strip it. It's got a thumb safety here as well, spring loaded. This big screw right here. This is very similar to a Winchester and a Marlin. So you just take this big thumb screw out. Now this is not secured, so it does come all the way out. You don't want to lose it. There's that. We're gonna, and it just pops apart, okay? What you got here is this tab, and that fits right in there into that grooved area. And on the inside, we got our bolt, carrier, and the firing pins all in there one piece. There are 3 pins in this. 2 of them hold the firing pin in, and 1 holds the extractor ejector spring mechanism. Bolt, you just pull it out a little bit, just lifts right out. This right here is your slide. There's a round raised boss right there. That cut just drops right back in. Okay. This gun's really easy to take apart. So once you get the field strip done, it's basically just pins and a couple screws. So there's a pin right here that holds this spring-loaded stop arm in, and you can see the little notch there that interfaces with the slide. Okay. There's 2 screws here that hold the wood piece on the front. Let's see. I think that's all for that side. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The bolt does not have a combination extractor ejector. It's only an extractor. This side of the receiver has a spring-loaded ejector right here. There's a screw right here. This one did not want to come out, so I left it in place because, quite frankly, it was not essential for me to take this piece out to do the coating operation that I wanted to do. And once I'm done, I'm going to put some penetrating oil in here. That way it helps prevent rust from developing it behind that. There's a pin here, holds your magazine release lever. There is a screw pin. See it on the other side. This is your trigger. That's your trigger. And I'm going to take this buttstock off. And on a lot of these old guns, the parts and pieces tend to do more than one job. So what they did is the spring that operates the safety is right here. It's a flat spring. This is also, see that moving up and down? It's also your trigger return spring. Okay, and then this spring and rod right here, that's your guide rod for your hammer and spring for that. The safety goes through the guide rod. So order operations, taking this apart, you're going to want to take the bolt out first. You can hold the spring back with your fingers and take the screw pin out, take the bolt out. Once that spring pressure is released, you're going to drive this pin right here, and that will allow you to take this button off, and you'll be able to take this arm out. There's a screw right here that holds the spring. If you can't get it loosened up because it's an awkward angle, you can take a punch and gently drive the spring be counterclockwise, because that's the direction you would turn the screw to loosen it. A second option would be to just take the spring off, drive this pin out, and then you could pretty assuredly access this safety arm here. But, you know, there's a couple different ways you can do it. So like I said, pretty simple. If you had a milling machine and the know-how, I'm pretty confident that this is a rifle that you could manufacture yourself in your garage. If you, like I said, if you had the time and the tools and the know-how to do it. That's the thing I really enjoy about these older firearms, is how simple they were to put back together. They're very easy to service. This one and the Winchester model and the Marlin model were more than likely what they call gallery guns. So back in the old days, before, you know, crazy people took over, they had shooting galleries at Carnival, and you could go pay, you know, whatever, a penny maybe, and you'd get a 22 loaded with 22 shorts, and you would shoot at objects up on this wall, and if you hit X amount of them, you got a prize. It's a lot of fun. You can sometimes still find them. Typically it's going to be a air operated BB gun or a high pressure water cannon, something like that. It won't be something cool like this. So if you missed that because it was out of camera shot, so to put this back together, you're basically just going to make sure that these two halves pinch together nice and easy. I like to have the bolt just a little bit out of battery, not all the way, just a little bit. And then you, like I said, you sandwich them together, put this thumb screw through, get it good and tight. Just give it a look, cycle it, works. The butt simply slips back over. You got the screw here, goes on the top, tightens down. When you use screwdrivers, be sure that you get one that adequately and correctly fits the slot, because if you don't, there is a high probability that you are going to hork up the head of the screw, and then you're going to have to fix that as well. So the interesting thing about this magazine, so when the last round is fired out of it, the follower pops up. Okay, if I load this, you can see the follower is in the way of the bolt, so I can't close it. Before we finish up here, I'm going to show you this book. This is a good book. It's got a lot of good information and history about American vintage 22s from late 1800s up until probably, I'm going to say, right after World War II. So it's just a good book. One of the guys I watch a lot, Mark Novak, he says, you know, buy the book. $1 in books will save you thousands in stupid, because you if you don't have the knowledge in your hand, you're going to screw something up. And if you mess up somebody's antique firearm or you mess up one of your own, it's going to cost you to get it fixed or refinished. So take the time, buy the book, look it up. This one's called Walnut and Steel. It's by a guy named Bill Ward. Bill Ward has written, I guess, a bunch of novels, and he likes to go on safari hunts. He wrote this one about vintage 22s. I got this on Amazon for $15, so well worth the money. You guys have been doing a good job of maintaining a dialogue with me, leaving comments and constructive criticism, and I really appreciate that. One of you in particular, I really appreciate the emails. I'm going to call him my recovering machinist viewer. He's a machinist by trade. I think he said he's a tool and die maker. And some of the stuff I do on the mill and the lathe just drives him absolutely bonkers because it's not the conventional way that they're taught to do it. And I completely appreciate that. This guy's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm glad that he takes the time to say, hey, you know, what you did probably got the job done, but it may not be the best practice. So I greatly appreciate that. Again, you know, I appreciate you watching. If you guys have guns you'd like to see me work on, please leave them in the comments. I will do my absolute best to make videos about those as I get them in the shop, if I'm able to get them in the shop. If you have any, you know, processes on the machines that you would like to have me go over, I will definitely do my best to make a video about that. And if it's something that I'm not real familiar with, maybe, you know, one of you out there would be willing to share some instructional material with me to where I can pass that along to others. Or if you live, you know, somewhere close, you're more than welcome to come in and be a guest star on one of these videos. I'm not above having somebody else come in and put their hands on my equipment, especially if it's going to help out and teach somebody else out there how to do something they want to learn how to do. So hope you guys have a good day. Hope you learned something. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe. Look forward to hearing from you.